Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Our Gospel reading raises the question of tradition, how important it is to remain faithful to God's revelation in history. It corresponds well with what Pope Francis says in his encyclical letter on fraternity and social friendship in Fratelli, Tutti. In articles 12 and 13, he is dealing with the consequences of globalization. He says that this new global culture unifies the world, but at the same time divides persons and nations. For as society becomes ever more globalized, it makes us neighbors, but does not make us brothers. The advance of this kind of globalism strengthens the identity of the more powerful, who can protect themselves, but it tends to diminish the identity of the weaker and poorer regions, making them more and more vulnerable and dependent. This falling apart of identities can be an explanation why there is so much tension and division in our world, because this kind of globalism promotes defense against the trends of globalization. And when today we blame the rise of nationalism, what is called nationalism, local interests, hostility and mistrust among nations, the lack of cooperation is part of this counter-reaction to globalization. But the point I really want to highlight is how it affects the younger generations. The Pope says, as a result, there is a growing loss of the sense of history, which leads to even further breakup. The one thing it leaves in its wake is the drive to limitless consumption and expressions of empty individualism. Concern about this led me, the Pope, to offer the young some advice. If someone tells young people to ignore their history, to reject the experiences of their elders, to look down on the past and to look forward to a future that he himself holds out, doesn't it then become easy to draw them along so that they only do what he tells them? He needs the young to be shallow, uprooted and distrustful, so that they can trust only in his promises and act according to his plans. This is how various ideologies operate. They destroy all differences so that they can reign unopposed. To do so, however, they need young people who have no use for history, who spurn the spiritual and human riches inherited from past generations and are ignorant of everything that came before them. As members of the Lunch Club belonging to the elderly generation, it invites us to think and to pray for the young generation. And it also invites us to be proud that we remember the word of our parents and grandparents. It is our Christian task to preserve our identity and our particular interests, our particular identity and our customs. So, on the one hand, while we are worried about this mass of forgetfulness about the past, let us be proud that we have the Eucharist, we have Christ with us, who helps us to remember the values of the past and those values of the present which are needed to build a better world.